Well, it's Thursday, and you know what that means.
Thursday.
Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern. Well, almost 2 p.m. Eastern. It's like 1:57, but, you know.
Close enough.
Yeah, we round up. It's time for the Altar Live Show. Welcome in to this very special broadcast. We've got an awesome time waiting for you just on the other side of this title card. I'm Andy, and that over there is our good friend, Maeve Brooks. Maeve, how's the week been so far?
It's been good. I was telling you, Andy, before, I've been trying to get back into reading more.
Yeah.
I go through seasons where I'll read a lot and I'll really be enjoying it, and then I'll kind of get overexposed to the amount of reading I've been doing, and I'll have to take breaks.
Yep.
But, you know, I'm trying to read before bed more instead of watching TV.
Same.
Or like watch a little TV and then read, just so my eyes aren't, you know, just glued to the screen before I go to bed.
Yep.
I can't say it always works, but we are trying to make progress.
A friend of mine let me borrow a Kindle Paperwhite, and I tell you what, that thing has changed. I'm like a tactile, old school Bible scholar nerd. I've got 30 Bibles, and I'm a pastor. What do you want? I've got book crap everywhere.
Totally.
But he gave me this Kindle, and like I've been reading. Man, a couple nights ago, I started a book. I actually started the Will Smith biography.
Oh, interesting.
After the slap heard around the world, I started reading that and was like, this is fascinaing. Like, I grew up on this dude, Fresh Prince and Welcome to Miami and getting jiggy with it and all that. But we sat down in bed at like 9:30 or whatever, and then I had this Kindle. It's not got blue light. It's got this little backlight thing. It's real small. Like I can hold it in my hand like an iPhone. And all of a sudden I look up, it's 10:45, and I went, oh, I need to go to bed. I am going to be tired at 5 a.m. when I got to wake up in the morning.
Oof, yeah.
Yeah. So, no, I'm right there with you. It's like good therapeutic for the soul. I do all my
Definitely.
I do all my quiet time, Bible time, journal time stuff in the morning. And then at night, that's the decompressing with like some dumb fantasy sci-fi whatever, or a biography, or I just got done with a history of... It was called The German War, and it's all about the history of the German war machine back in the 30s and 40s. It's real nerdy stuff.
Wow. I love it.
Real dry, real boring, lots of charts and maps. And I
love how passionate you are for the dry charts and maps.
Hey, you don't get as nerdy as I am without reading and loving charts. You're not old enough to remember this. Me and all of my 38 years of history on this planet, but there was AAA used to put out an atlas thing, like a big map of the United States every year, big books, and I would grab those books from my parents as soon as we got them, and I would just pore over them.
Oh, that's so cute.
Plan out little trips, and it was great. I knew where Poughkeepsie was. I knew where Peoria was. I knew where Shreveport, Louisiana was, that type of stuff.
That's good because, with the Google Maps and Waze and all that stuff,
your generation is screwed, Maeve.
I'm already directionally challenged, Andy. I'm helpless when it comes to this, and this generation, like my generation, has just made it worse.
Oh yeah, no, you guys are in deep. I feel so. I look at my kids and I go like, I'm sorry guys. Like our 17-year-old, he drives and he's going to like some work thing tonight, and I go, hey bud, okay, you got to go, to this street and this street and this street. Where is that? Well, that's gosh. Like you go west for a little bit. Which way is west? Just put it in Waze, dude. I can't.
Exactly. It's so bad.
I know.
But
whatever. Once the internet blows up, then you won't ever get to see our smiling, happy faces either. Hey, if you are live with us on YouTube or if you're live with us on Facebook, join in the chat. We will be live in a little bit. We got a couple of very special guests here to get to. But before we do that, we typically open the show with a TV recommendation. And I'm going to put that on pause today. We're going to put a little pause. Maeve and I are we are exploring our options in terms of our TV recommendations and the things that we are finding
Yes.
in life. And I was out making coffee. I always make a pre-show coffee, either in an Altar Live mug or some
Nice.
office mug or whatever. And my wife bought these things, and I don't know if you can see what this is.
I'm like squinting. Oh wait,
yeah.
are they is it a pretzel?
It is, not only is it a pretzel, Maeve, it is a
I
peanut
think I know
butter
where you're
filled
going with
pretzel.
this.
This thing, she
I
got it
know
from a place
these.
called Aldi. I don't know if you guys have Aldi up by you.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I've heard of it.
They're everywhere.
I
I mean, it's
haven't,
like they're at
probably.
ShopRite. They're at, whatever you
Yes.
guys have up there. You have Save a Lot. I don't know what you guys have up there.
No, not Save a Lot. I don't know
Piggly
what that
Wiggly?
is.
Okay.
No, not quite. Not Piggly Wiggly. We have something called Wegmans.
Oh, yeah, I know
and-
Wegmans.
Yeah. Wegmans.
We didn't have Wegmans in South Jersey. We had ShopRite, and we had, I think it was just, we had like Kmart and Walmart and all that crap.
Gotcha.
Phil joins in on the broadcast today. He says those things are delicious. I agree, and the problem is that the bag is like halfway open, and my wife left the bag halfway open, and so when I was making my coffee and I turned into the pantry and I saw the halfway open bag, I couldn't help but grab a gigantic handful. And now I have one down there just taunting me, waiting for this show to get
boy.
over. So, Maeve, what about you? Do you have a snack recommendation for the week?
Yes.
course.
And the thing is, I didn't even prepare. It just popped into my
Wow.
head.
This is
Inspiration.
improv at its finest.
Yes. There is a wonderful place that many of you probably know called Trader Joe's.
Oh, yes.
Anyone? Yes. My favorite snack at Trader Joe's, I don't know exactly what they're called, but they're like off-brand Takis, if you know those. They're like lime, like spicy lime tortilla, like strip things. And every time we go to Trader Joe's, like I have to, if I go or if like someone else goes, you have to bring like 4 bags back because each of my sisters, we have to have one.
And the
So if
problem
anyone
is,
goes,
oh, go ahead.
oh, well, if anyone goes and doesn't, like, gets one bag and not, like, one for the rest of the family, it is not a good day.
Yeah, I mean, you might as well just not come home.
Exactly.
The problem is that when you go to Trader Joe's and buy those things, it takes like half a paycheck for each bag. So that's...
I know. That is the one, because it's like a special occasion thing, I will say.
Yeah.
It is the one drawback to Trader Joe's that it is. And I mean, I don't need to get into this, but the bags are getting smaller.
Inflation. What are you going to do? 9%
I won't get
inflation.
into it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking of inflation, not really speaking of inflation, we actually have a very special guest that's going to be joining us momentarily, and a couple of special guests. And if you were with us last week, you heard us interviewing a young man. He's not really that young. A young guy by the name of David Allen, who lives across the pond. He also has been helping with a couple of churches stateside. He was also associated with Life Church in Oklahoma, helping them kind of get their Bible app up and running a long time ago. And he had kind of been working with Altar Live and getting churches and specifically hosts working inside of Altar Live, and he brought a really fresh perspective, because kind of this thing that we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks on the Altar Live show, which is how to actually get started with Altar Live. A lot of times we get emails, we get social messages, we get people jumping in on YouTube comments saying, man, we love the platform, but it's going to be real tough to kind of transfer people over to it because we're already so ingrained in Facebook, church online platform, things like that. So David kind of offered a bunch of tips, and we've been talking with a church by the name of Hope Church, and we'll get to them in, like I said, just a second. And they've been using the platform for a little bit now, and successfully using the platform. And we wanted to bring on 2 very, very special people. I've said special like 6 times, so no pressure.
Special count.
Behind the scenes here, Judy and Rick joining us on the program. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you guys so much for being here today, all the way from the great state of New Jersey. How's everything going up there with you guys? Whoop, I think I have you muted. Hold on one sec. Now try it, Rick.
Hey, things are good. I feel special.
Thanks,
Andy. I'm feeling
Judy,
very special.
Judy, do you feel special as well?
I feel very special. You know what? I love Trader Joe's too, and I don't go in there that much either, Maeve, because of that whole bag shrinkage.
I know. It's really devastating.
It's a travesty. Yeah.
Yeah, it
It-
is such a travesty.
It's a travesty. All right. So, Hope Church, I want to get kind of a full rundown. Who are you guys? What's your origin story? And kind of how did you get to where you are today? Rick, I want to start with you. Give me a little backstory as to Hope Church.
Sure. Hope we're a United Methodist Church. We were planted 33 years ago, and I have been at the church for 16 years. I started for the first year as a youth pastor. I became the small groups person, the missions person, and then was a campus person. We launched a campus, and we were 2 years old into our campus building. Judy has been working along with me that whole time, doing all those things. And she's the administrative gifted one in the mix here. And so pre-pandemic, we were 2 campuses, and pandemic hit, and our focus was we need to keep our people together. And so the lead pastor and I, who were both preaching at these 2 campuses, began to preach in one central location, one message to our whole community. Our first Sunday, we had not been digital. The plan was to launch a digital campus in November of 2020, but the pandemic pushed that forward 8 months. And so our very first Sunday, we were on an iPhone. And I remember we were just talking about it the other day, because we're on the iPhone, and remember the person running it. We had the band on one side, which was 2 people, and then he slowly panned across, and there was Jeff and I sitting in our stools, and we look back and think, I can't believe that's where we started, but that's where we started. And we got through that service, and then we have always done this, that we debrief everything that we do, and so every Sunday is a debrief. So we sat down, and first we just breathed a sigh of relief that, hey, we pulled it off. We made it onto Facebook. Hey, all right, and we actually had people who were watching us, and we figured it out. And then we said, all right, what do we do to make it better? And so we spent the whole next week trying to make it better, and we've been trying to make it better every week since. So that's kind of our story. And we, along the line, because I had heard about a church online platform, I had already signed us up for that. So we weren't in the queue. There was if you remember in the pandemic, there was a big queue of getting onto church online. We were already on there. So on week 2, we jumped right to Chop, and then added cameras, added equipment, and invested heavily over the next year into our online campus. And it's been quite a journey. I learned a lot. Didn't learn any of this in seminary. And figuring it out along the way. But it's been good. It's been fun. It's exciting. I love to build things. So I'm an entrepreneur by nature. So I was like all for it. And let's do it. Let's figure out what this means and see where we go. I'll be bored with it in about 5 years. So I have a shelf life on things. So, but yeah, that's where we're at.
Yeah, just putting that out there just for anybody else watching from Hope. Make sure that you get this guy something new so that he doesn't tank your online presence. Absolutely. Judy, talk to me about, he said you're kind of the administratively gifted one, but he also had some very glowing words about what you're doing with volunteers and things like that along the digital area as well as the whole church. So tell us what your involvement with kind of digital and Hope is on the whole.
So you're right. I'm the volunteer wrangler, so to speak. And,
herding cats.
That's a great word.
Yeah, but you know what? They're great. And, it's interesting because our whole deal is fluid. It's like if we have certain volunteers that serve every week, we have a rotation where people serve every 4 weeks, but people pitch in. Like if one person can't do it, another person steps in, and, we make do, and we have what we call team leads, and then we have hosts. So everybody pitches in for one another. So it's wonderful. And they, I troll Facebook and different social media outlets to kind of find volunteers. We like to deal with people who have been worshiping with us online and say, hey, would you like to do this? And we let them know it's really easy, and you can do it in your pajamas. And, you can make breakfast for your kids in between services, and it's all good. So the hosts and the people that we have doing it now really enjoy doing it because they can chat with people, our worshipers, and really make them feel a part of worship.
Before we get to the next question, I know Maeve wanted to ask you about Altar Live itself. You said you're trolling Facebook. Now that obviously for some people has a real super negative connotation.
It does.
So let's clear up any misunderstanding. No, I would love to hear kind of the process of that, because there's a real wisdom in what you're saying. You're going to the people, and I would love to hear kind of what's your process for finding that volunteer.
So we typically, Rick and I both typically like to look at people who are active now in online outlets, right? Because we know that those are the people who are going to feel comfortable online chatting with guests. And so that's one method. And obviously, as I mentioned, another method is to get people as hosts who are comfortable worshiping online. I mean, not everybody's there were people who were like, okay, we're done with this now. We're going back to in person. And there are other people who are, no, like Rick and I are like, no, this is really here to stay. So, we're marching on with this. So, yeah. So even if people are trying to go in person, they may jump back online. I've seen that happen all the time. So there are three types of people, people who are online for good, like Rick and I, and then people that are going back in person, and then people that are online and in person. So our hosts tend to be people who are more online permanently, but some of them have kids. Some of them are going back for the kids. And so it's a hybrid, as Rick likes to say.
Yeah.
And just to clear up the trolling on Facebook piece, because I think we need to clarify that. It's important. Is that so we're watching our Hope Facebook group. We see the people who are actively using that group.
Right.
They're the most comfortable in a digital environment, and so if they're comfortable there, they're going to certainly be comfortable working in a chat window and chatting with the people who come online. So just wanted to clear that.
Yeah, Judy's not walking in there with a link, text spamming people and saying, "Hey, come gamble with my new NFT site" or whatever. Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, that is not happening. Yeah.
Oh, that is so funny. So how did you hear about Altar Live? How did that get on your radar? Because you talked a little bit how you knew about Church Online platform and you kind of add yourself to the waiting list. How did you first hear about Altar, and what was your first reaction?
I have tried to remember back to the first day, but I know it was either a social media ad or it was an email. It was some solicitation that I received. And I remember going to the website, looking at it, going, "This is great. This is exactly what we want to do, but we're not ready yet," kind of thing. And I remember writing on a Post-it note, altarlive.com. And then I have you can't see off to my left here, I have this wall of windows, and they're just useless because I can't do anything with them. So they become my Post-it note idea board. And so I have a bunch of planning things up there. And so I just wrote altarlive.com on this a little Post-it note, and it just sat there for the first year of the pandemic because I love the idea, but we weren't ready to invest in that yet. But I knew it was going to be the next step. We are still getting people comfortable watching church on a screen. And so it just sat there. And then when we were ready to bring people back to in person, so we went 15 months online only without having people in the building. So when we were ready to go back, we decided to really reformat and redirect everyone's thinking. Our vision used to be one church, two locations, and we changed it to one church with two expressions. And that has been really important to us, and that we see hybrid as the way to do church moving forward for our community. And so Altar I felt played right into that, because we wanted to give the same kind of environment, same kind of opportunity for people who would come in person while they worship digitally as well. So the idea of sit in a row, to be able to have individual chats with people, all those features were important to us for the crowd that was going to be digital only, and the crowd that was going to go back and forth between digital and physical. So yeah, so that was how we started. We still use Chop, so we have a crowd of people that still go there because they're just comfortable there, and we're okay with that. I eventually our initially was trying to find a way to push all those people away to altar, and I'm like, let's not do it that way. Let's just make this, the language then was that our new platform has so many more opportunities, and trying to move people that way instead of pushing them there. We're trying to pull them that way. And so we always have so doing analytics on Monday morning is crazy, because someone has to go to all the different places to find out where everybody's at, and that's okay. That's what we do, and that's not going to change. But the majority of us now are on the altar platform. Yeah, it's been great.
Are you?
So how?
Go ahead, Maeve. No.
So how do you find yourself using the platform? Because you said people still use Chop, and there's a lot of different features and spaces on Altar to gather, because you have the event space and the rooms and the tables. How do you use Altar, and like in terms of what part do you use the most, and how do you use it?
We definitely use the chat the most, and Judy would probably chime in here at some point. I know that one of the things that's been working great is that so we do everything in teams. So we have a staff team member, a lead. What do we call them? Lead team, Judy? No, what do we call that person?
Team leader.
A team lead.
Staff,
a team leader.
Staff. Yeah, team leader, and then we have online hosts.
So it's a 3-person team at every service, and they sit in a row together and will chat before or after, kind of just to make sure that everyone's on board with what's going on in the service. So the video chat piece works really well. The row piece works really well for that. But the majority of our folks, we're still trying to get them to feel comfortable in rows and tables. So the chat feature is the feature that we use the most. The announcement tabs we use quite effectively, and those are the pieces that are. It's more engaging than we found on other platforms, and that's probably the piece we use most. Yeah.
So you would say the event space.
Yeah, and we're also transitioning. A lot of our small groups now are moving over to the platform, and we love the small group feature because it's the same address, it's the same page, those kinds of things. So just the idea of having people go to the same space to find their small group has been good. And we've had small groups. I just saw someone in the hallway. One of my office mates I said I had to close my door because I was going to be in a podcast, and she was asking why, and I said, talking about Altar Live, and she was sharing that we have a Wednesday women's Bible study, which is an older group of ladies, and she said, I'm so proud of them because they jumped into Altar.
We're not all old.
Those are fighting words, Rick.
And you know what? Judy actually, she helped champion that. She moved them all into Altar, and they do. It's a great group, and they seem to be doing well. Yeah. So it's been great. Yeah. That's been a great piece, is the small group addition for us.
Judy, I'm assuming you're part of the young woman's group that Rick is talking about there.
I am.
How were there initial bumps and bruises as people kind of started transferring over from, I'm assuming, Zoom, but it could have been Teams or Hangouts or whatever? Was there a lot of frustration and gripe, or was it kind of just like, okay, we're doing this. This is pretty simple?
It was. There still are bumps.
Oh yeah.
But you know what? I think it's just a platform transition thing. It's getting. We were on Zoom, and it's just getting them used to the features on Altar versus the features on Live. And it's nice because when I'm with my small group, we're doing it, and people have trouble, I can kind of coach them and just say, it's really not that much different from Zoom. It's just like finding the little things and where they all are and the icons and all. So it's like it's not really mysterious. It's just getting used to it, getting used to seeing yourself on another window.
Exactly. We have a lot of sympathy for that as well. Maeve and I do. We deal constantly with Altar Live families, churches that use Altar Live that are asking for kind of one-to-one amalgamations between, okay, Zoom does this, does Altar Live do this? And yes, it does, and so much more. But, there's a real Mac versus PC kind of transition. They both essentially do the same thing, but buttons kind of look different and all that. And so that's kind of how we're always just framing it is, you just do this, and repetition will show you that this is kind of the simpler way of doing it.
Yeah. Coming from, I came from a world of technology where I actually had, before I landed at Hope, I was in technology for 20 years. And it's the same kind of thing. It's just getting used to, like, you know, I'm gonna really date myself here, and you know I'm not old. Between Word and WordPerfect.
Hey, WordPerfect is still around, by the way.
Is it really?
Is it really?
Sort of. Yeah, it's called Libra Open Office. But yeah, the source code is still there.
But it's that kind of thing, you know, and I think that if you're not used to, like, transitioning like that, it's the transitions are all more difficult.
Yep. Okay, so let's transition into, we talked about hosts, we kind of talked about the admin side. I want to talk about the congregation side for a minute, because Rick, you kind of mentioned that we kind of have 3 different methods that we always tell people of how to get their congregation on board. There's usually just kind of hard cut off. 1 week you're on something else, and then next week we're turning that off, and now we're on Altar Live. And that has varying degrees of success. There's another way that's kind of like a 2-week, 3-week sort of slow roll, where we slowly transition groups of people away from something into Altar Live, and that has a good success rate. But we are finding a lot of churches that are doing what you're doing and not necessarily promoting the old platform, and instead promoting Altar Live and putting language and really just letting people live without upsetting the apple cart, because at the end of the day, it is about the people. It's about their comfortability, and it's about discipleship, all told. How have you gone about getting your congregation excited and informed about what Altar Live is doing?
Yeah, and to your point, it was we described that different channels are kind of like having we have a 9:00 service and a 10:30 service. So it's the same service, but it's at 9 or 10:30. So we do the same thing with our different channels. So if you're comfortable watching in one space versus another, unless that space creates a challenge for us technologically, we have no reason that we would stop doing it. It just creates difficulty in counting people. So, we talk a lot about it counts, so digital church counts, in-person church counts. It's all one church, 2 expressions. We talk about that. It's a community of people, and you can get to know people just as well in a digital community as you can in an in-person environment. We're finding people who travel back and forth now that in New Jersey it's become easier, or more people are more comfortable going out in public and going into larger rooms. And so people who will come more frequently to in person, but they'll still say, "Oh, we didn't miss, we watched on digital this week." So we're really seeing that. So before the pandemic, there was a nationally church attendance was dropping to less than, I think it was like 1 time per month was about what it was suggested. And we're finding that we knew who those people were in our community, and they're telling us, "Hey, we're watching church all the time."
That's so cool.
We're not missing it. We have one guy who he has dual homes, and he said that I was only able to attend your worship half the time of the year because I spent the other half in another home. And now he's attending half the time digital, half the time physical. So we just keep talking about the great opportunity that it provides, and we're okay with wherever it is you choose to worship. So we're not pushing you to come in person. We're not pushing you to stay online. We're just glad that you're part of our community. Yeah. I don't know if that answered your question or not.
No, that's great. There's a I was gonna make a Shuby joke about that guy, but I don't know where the Shuby cutoff line is. I don't know if that's Philly or I don't know.
I think when you own a home, it doesn't count as Shuby.
Okay, yeah.
Right.
You're not wrong.
So the other thing, I don't know whether you wanted to bring this up or not, Rick, but I think another thing that the digital platform helps us with is visitors. So before digital exploded during the pandemic, it was really difficult for people to get that impetus to walk through a church door, particularly when you didn't have an invite or somebody, waiting there for you or whatnot. And now, we've had, Rick, you could talk about this probably better than I can, but a woman who went by our church for years and years and kept saying, "I should go in, I should go in, I should go in." And then finally, when we launched, online, she started to watch. And is she coming in person now, Rick, or is she still hybrid or what?
She's one of those hybrid people. Yeah, she goes back and forth.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
we've
So
seen
it's,
that's really again opportunity. So I think that's where Judy was going is we see this
yeah.
as what a great opportunity. We have people every month. There's multiple people that Judy is sending a welcome email to, saying thanks for joining us.
Hmm.
And that's the people, and that means they logged in, so they're giving us their information. So we don't know how many are watching without giving us information. So we're finding that it's become and we're not the only ones to say this, but it's the new front door for the
Yep.
church. And I meet people, and it's kind of, it weirds me out sometimes, because I'll meet someone and I'll go, oh hey, I'm Pastor Rick, and they say, oh, we know you, we've been watching you, and I'm like, that's really weird, but okay. But yeah, so people watching me.
Yeah, that's a real sting in the police type thing there. I want to publish this comment, and I want you to just feel encouraged. But Phil says, as someone who lives an hour and a half to 2 hours from my church home, I love the dual expression. And as a tech volunteer, it's great to have some new tools and toys to enhance the worship experience in person.
Yeah, Phil's part of our community. Yeah.
That's so cool. Phil, thanks for being
Yeah.
part of the community. Thanks for being part of the Altar Live family. Before I know, Maeve, I'm cutting you off because I have a really important question.
Okay,
And this
go
is not
for
a
it.
funny. This is not a funny question. This is an actual serious question, and it's kind of twofold. So the church I work in is a United Methodist church as well. We're not elder led, obviously, being United Methodist. We're very much council committee driven. Our general oversight committee, or GOC, kind of has been behind digital since day one. They've been pushing and said, yes, there's the vision, there's the mission, it's the go and reach all go and make disciples of all nations type thing. Have you had any pushback from committee leadership in that respect?
Andy, I'll tell you, this is interesting, and I want this on air or not, but I'm going to say it, is that so we reorganized our leadership here, and while we're a United Methodist Church, we have a 9-member leadership team.
I love it.
And they lead. So we're staff driven.
I love it.
Lead team led, and so the lead team was on board from the beginning, and that's the only group that we needed to get
That's
on
so
board.
cool.
Since then, it's just been about introducing the community, and the community has been excited about it, because if we had launched this without a pandemic, it would have been so much more challenging. And I'm not suggesting that the pandemic was a good thing. That's not what I mean. but the opportunity to launch where everybody had to use digital made digital so much more valuable to people. So those that came back, they still appreciate that they were connected to their church home for 15 months via digital. While they prefer physical, they appreciate digital. And that would not have happened if we didn't have to close the doors for 15 months to in-person worship. So for us, it was an easy sell. The finances are always a challenge, and we have to make sure that we have a reason for spending a lot of money on digital equipment, but we've been fortunate that everyone's been on board with that. Yeah. So we haven't had any of those kind of hurdles, which has been which is kind of cool. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's super cool. Maeve,
I'll talk
go ahead.
offline, Andy. I'll talk to you more about that. But no,
I'll send you my number later in DMs. There we go.
So this is a question more for Judy. We're always curious to know what people are looking for in a host or greeter when you're kind of wrangling volunteers. What are the main qualities you're looking for, and what advice would you give to other church leaders looking for Altar Live hosts and greeters?
Yeah, definitely glad you asked that. We look for people who are naturally chatty, who have been naturally chatty in other venues before. A lot of our hosts who were in-person hosts are now online hosts, and vice versa, and some are hybrid. So you want to find someone who is naturally warm and welcoming, personality-wise, more extroverted, even online, so that they know kind of what to do, and you're not having to train them in something that's a natural gift. You know what I mean? So again, you're looking for a gift skill set that is extroverted and welcoming.
Have you found that greeters that maybe start in person and then move to online? Have you noticed that maybe some greeters who are good in person are not as good online?
Yes.
Well, it's
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I'd love to answer that. Yeah, Judy.
He jumped
yeah,
in there quick
yeah,
on that one.
it is interesting. I mean, sometimes the online in-person thing doesn't go back and forth, and sometimes it does. You know, I've definitely had people who have come and helped out online who were in person, who said, you know, now that we're back in person again, I think I want to go greet in person, and that's fine. That's fine.
Totally.
So, you know, and then I have one greeter who was really, you know, kind of annoyed that she had to greet online on Easter, and I said, well, if you want to go in person, take your laptop or, you know, go to, she likes to greet online at 9:00. So I said, okay, so take your laptop, greet, go to church,
Yeah,
go
simple.
to church, greet online at 9, and then go worship at 10:30 in person. And she's like, oh yeah, can I do that? Of course. But I mean, just so you know, we again looking for that natural skill set.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
it's always so interesting to see like how people will act online versus in person. Because I feel like I would be a better person to be a greeter in person than online. Because I really don't like typing in the chat. I feel very exposed.
You're not supposed to say that.
She works for you, Maeve. I don't know who you work for, but come on. No, it's a definite thing. I find myself the reverse. Even being a pastor for so long, 12, however many years, I feel like relationships can get deeper quicker online because there is a bit of a guard up with a lot of people in person because it's, hey, how you doing? Oh, fine, everything's fine. Yep, me and my wife, we're doing good. Kids are great. Meanwhile, they've just been screaming bloody murder in the car, and they had a fight the hour before and all that. But online, you can really dive deep pretty quickly, and people are willing to go there. And obviously there's always the risk of authenticity and how much of this is being made up, and I can't look at your body language and I can't see if your shoulders are slumped or if you're slovenly or whatever, but by and large there's a truthfulness to that somebody wanting to engage with a church host or a church greeter actually has something going on. So Judy, you're doing the Lord's work in wrangling the volunteers. I know Rick is probably super thankful, but from kind of our side, from the Altar Live side, and as a digital pastor, like, thank you for what you do. Thank you for dealing with the craziness of people, and keep on keeping on. And we appreciate it.
Thanks.
Yes,
Absolutely.
I appreciate it. Absolutely, yeah.
Judy
didn't mention she also has she set up a great shadowing program for people. So we have someone who they want to try. So Maeve, to your point of, I don't know if I'd be good at this. That's fine. Just sign on. We'll make you a host, and you just get to work. So you get to see the behind the scenes side of Altar as well, which is great for that person. They just feel comfortable. So either they feel comfortable or they don't, but we give them 1 week to just shadow and check us out and see if you'd like it. And that was Judy's idea, and I think it works out really well.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm taking notes on all of the stuff that you've been talking. Judy, you've been a fount of knowledge. So if some of this starts popping up in some of my videos and some of our blog posts, we'll give you the credit because you're doing great. We appreciate your brilliance there. I kind of have one last question and then kind of our sign-off question. I think Maeve can kind of take that. But the last question I had is, you talked about small groups. You kind of talked about all that other stuff. What kind of discipleship paths or programs, like what's the process inside of Altar Live with your people right now? Are we still getting them comfortable with the platform and then we can start diving a little deeper? Are we doing in-depth discipleship small groups? Like what's that whole process look like for you?
I think it's both and. I think we are still, there's a large group still getting comfortable using the platform, being digital. There's a group that are deciding if they're going to be hybrid or physical, and they're using Altar or a platform as I'm not going to go to church in person this week, so I'm going to use a digital channel instead. But we have those who are using small groups in different ways too. So our small groups we have solely digital small groups. I lead since the pandemic, I've only led digital small groups, and I might never go back to physical small groups. I love it. And I'm leading a small group right now where we have someone who works. He's an emergency room nurse, so he works till I think 7 or 8 o'clock. So he logs in on the altar on his phone and puts it on, and we watch him drive. It's like watching the scene of Miami Vice. Remember that show? And he's driving along, and he's chatting with us in our small group while he's driving home from Philly. And then we have somebody who is what's the other one? There's at one point we were driving home from work. We had someone at work. In his cubicle. We could see behind him that he was in the cubicle, and the rest of us are at home. And those guys would have just said, if it was an in-person small group, they'd have said, I can't make it tonight. Instead, we were all present. We all spent our hour and 15 minutes together talking about what was going on in our lives. It was a great experience. I don't know if I'll ever go back to in-person small groups. There's always that initial awkward, uncomfortable piece of a digital environment, and then once you get through that, I think it's a great opportunity. So I'm really pushing for how do we get more of those, and then we're also playing around with hybrid small groups where we have half the group or a percentage of the group are in person and the other percentage are online, using an altar platform or another platform. And we use something called the Owl. I don't know if you've seen the Owl before. So we have one of those, and that works really well. It gives you a 360-degree of the room, so it's better technologically for a hybrid group. So we have a couple groups that do hybrid right now as well. And then we started something that we do kind of one-on-one mentoring relationships. And when we first introduced it, our intent was it was going to be physical, but we had someone from Florida and someone from Pennsylvania both want to be in a group, in a one-on-one mentoring thing, but they wanted to do it digitally. And so we're, well, would the two of you consider it? And they have been doing it for a year. They get together once a week, talk about what's going on in the life. They kind of are going through a curriculum together that they've developed, and they've never met in person, I think, yet. They're planning to meet in person soon. They may not like each other. That'll be unique. So that's that, I think that I answer your question. Sometimes I feel like I'm all over the place.
No, that's good.
We're really pushing digital discipleship and engagement, really pushing engagement. How do people get connected beyond just looking at a screen? How do we engage people into that next step? So whether it's a small group beyond worship, or it's serving, and so that's where truly hybrid comes into place too. So I can be in church digitally, but I can serve physically, and so I'm living in a hybrid environment when it comes to my church.
That's fascinating. Yeah, Maeve, I don't have anything else. Do you?
No, I think we've covered everything. This was so helpful and fascinating to hear about your leadership and what you're doing.
I got one quick question. Yeah, okay, I got one quick question, and this is not Altar Live related, but this is global related. Where's the best cheesesteak in your area?
Oh, am I answering that? Yeah, Judy, you can go first. Do you eat
I'm not a cheesesteak person. I don't really eat them, but it's not Pat's. It's not downtown Philly. I don't know whether you agree, Maeve, but it's not.
No.
There's a place in Camden, New Jersey that's called Donkeys.
Oh, I've heard of Donkeys. Yeah.
That's the place. Yes.
And they just opened not too long ago in Mount Holly, where I live, Mount Holly, New Jersey.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that, Judy. Oh, okay. Yeah. There's one in Marlton around the corner, and it is the greasiest, cheesiest, and it's made on a round kaiser roll with poppy seeds. It's really unique, but Phil, it is greasy and good. See,
Phil agrees with you. Yeah, Phil, good on you. I remember the first time when I moved to Jersey, it was like, oh man, we gotta go. Yeah, Geno's and Pat's. It was awful. Like I waited in line. I got yelled at because I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah,
you go there for the kitsch value. I understand, but like this is awful. It's dry and there was no flavor and this is terrible. And then we went to some place back down in South Jersey. It was called, oh my gosh, I can't even remember. Sugar Mountain, and oh my gosh, like it was the first time I'd had a real
Yeah.
like
There
run
you go.
down your arm,
Yes.
greasy.
That's
Oh,
donkeys. Yeah.
oh man.
And always get the
I
fries and onion
usually,
rings.
Yeah.
I usually have like the chain, like capriottis. I don't know if you've ever had
Ah,
capriottis.
Capriottis is
no.
okay. It's
Yeah,
okay.
capriottis is
Yeah, but
fine.
it's
There's
chain.
like
You can't chain.
Lascadas. I don't know if you heard that one too. I
Yes.
don't know.
Capriottis is like what you get when you land at the Philly airport, though, and you have like
Uh-huh.
15 minutes where you got to go catch a flight, and you really want to feel bad about yourself.
Yes.
You get a Capriottis, and then feel terrible for the other half an hour.
Hey,
of
I
your
mean
trip.
it's better than Subway, so I'll have capriottis
Yeah,
any
you're
day.
not wrong there.
Agreed.
Cool. Rick, Judy, we've taken up enough of your time. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for everything that you do on the platform with your church. I was, Judy, I was not just kind of spreading lovely words, floral bouquets at what you guys are doing. We're very thankful for, yes, the fact that you're using UltraLive, but also the fact that you're just diving into the kingdom and diving into the digital aspect of what the kingdom can be expanding into, and you're really living out the Great Commission, excuse me. So thank you guys so much for being here today.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
Our pleasure.
Maeve, thank you so much for being here as well.
Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. We will see you guys next week on the Ultra Live Show. Until then, ta-ta.